Hello everyone, welcome to today's lesson where I'll show you how to retrieve the Wikitext or Wikicode of articles from the English Wikipedia using its API and Python. Let's start by taking a look at the HTML code of a chosen article if we approach this in the traditional way, which means directly from the user interface. For instance, consider the article about Poznań. Right-click anywhere on the page and select View Page Source. As you can see, there are numerous additional elements, scripts, styles, menus, and lots of other code that makes it harder to reach the article text itself. In such a situation, we have to remember that parsing HTML can be significantly more complicated and prone to errors. Now, I'd like to show you what the real source code of a Wikipedia article looks like, the so-called Wikicode or Wikitext. After visiting the article page, click on the Edit tab. What you see on the screen is the Wikicode. This is exactly how the content of an article is stored before it's rendered into HTML form for the reader. Wikitext is a markup language used by Wikipedia and its sister projects. It allows you to format text, insert links, tables, templates, and many other elements. For example, items surrounded by double square brackets can create hyperlinks to other Wikipedia pages or embed illustrations. Wikicode is much more readable than raw HTML and also smaller and lighter. Wikipedia provides a rich API, that is an abbreviation of Application Programming Interface, that lets you programmatically retrieve various data. Not just the Wikicode of an article, but also a lot of other information, linked categories, templates, revision histories, data about users, page view statistics, and so on. This opens up huge possibilities for statistical analysis, building your own applications, automated content translation, or even training your own machine learning models. We're now in the official Wikipedia API testing environment, known as the Sandbox. I need to enter the request parameters I want to send to the API. Let's say we want to retrieve the Wikitext of the article about Poznań. We start with the parameter action, where we select the value query from the long list of available actions. Next, we see additional options. Let's go there. In the titles field, we must enter the name of the Wikipedia article or articles that interest us. Then in the prop field, we select revisions. This means we want to get information about the article's revisions, including the content. Moving on, we can see more options. In the RV prop field, we choose content, because from those revisions, we only need the content. And here, it's also worth selecting main in the RV slots field. After running the query, I get the result in JSON format. JSON is fantastic for processing in Python because there's built-in support for that format through dedicated libraries. And it's also easier to send such data over the internet since it generally takes up less space than XML. Here, we not only see the result of our query, but also the URL that was used. Let's see what happens when I open a page with that address. I get a link that I can paste into the address bar in a new browser tab. After pressing enter, we see the raw JSON data, the same data we just saw in the testing environment. Now let's try writing some Python code that will fetch this data from the API. First, we import the urllib.request library, which allows us to send requests to web pages. Then we define a variable called URL. Here, we paste the URL generated by the API testing environment. Next, we define the variable response, which is responsible for sending the request to the specified URL and returning a response object. Then we read all the data from that response into a new variable called data, decoding it into a Unicode string, in our case UTF-8. Finally, we open a file named response.json in write mode and save the contents of data variable to it. Let's try running this code and checking the contents of the response.json file. After running, we can see the retrieved data in that format. Now let's see another way of sending a request to the API. In the testing environment, I can also show the request data differently in the form of a JSON object that can be directly passed to Python code. It's the same data as before, but in a more readable dictionary format. This format is often convenient to use when sending POST or GET requests. Let's write some new Python code that uses this dictionary format to query the API. This time we'll use a different library, requests, which some people find more convenient. We start with import requests, so we can use this library. We define a dictionary called params, which contains all the parameters needed for the request, the same ones we copied from the testing environment. Next, we define a variable for the URL of the English Wikipedia API service. We don't provide any parameters in this URL, as we'll add them via the params dictionary. Then we define the variable response, responsible for sending a GET request with the parameters specified in params. After that, we store the data we received in the variable data as text. Finally, we open a file named response.json and write the retrieved data to it. Before running this new code, let's clear out the previous contents of the response.json file to make sure everything's fresh. After running it, we can see in that file the data in JSON format, which looks the same as when we ran our earlier code. Great, we now have the data in JSON format, but we actually only need the raw wiki code of our chosen article. Let's modify our code so that we can save the Wikitext from this response to a separate file. Since we're working with data in JSON format, we have to import the library of the same name. Then we use the JSON loads command to treat the text data we've retrieved as a Python object, which can contain dictionaries, lists, and other variable types. We store this object in a new variable called JSON data. It's worth noting the data structure we need to navigate in order to find our path to the actual wiki text. In the JSON returned by Wikipedia, at the top level there's a curly brace, meaning we're dealing with a dictionary and we can access its elements using key names. Inside it, there's the query key that leads to another dictionary. That dictionary has the pages key, which usually contains a list of page data for the Wikipedia articles we requested. That's why we first access the query key and then the pages key. Next, we see a square bracket indicating that pages is a list. Each element in this list corresponds to one Wikipedia page. In our case, we only requested one page, so we access just the first element in the list. And in Python, indexing starts at 0, so we used 0 in square brackets. From there, we move into another dictionary that has the revisions key. This stands for the revisions of the article. An article can have many revisions or previous edits, which are stored in that list. Typically, we only need the latest revision, so we take the first element, hence the 0 in square brackets. We then see that there's another dictionary with the key slots, which itself contains the key called main. From there, we finally reach a dictionary containing the all-important content key. That's the entry which holds the Wikitext or the source code of the article in a wiki markup. We assign that to a new variable called Wikitext and then save it to a text file of the same name. Now we run our code. If we check the wikitext.txt file, we'll see exactly what's shown in the Edit tab of Wikipedia's interface. There are headings, links, templates, etc. It's precisely what we're looking for. Finally, I'll show you how to get the wiki code for multiple articles in a single request. Let's see how that looks first in the testing environment. Into the titles field, we'll add more article names. Let's say we want to retrieve articles with the following titles: Warsaw, Kraków, Wrocław, Łódź, Poznań, Gdańsk, Szczecin, Lublin, Bydgoszcz, Białystok, Katowice. After resending the query to the API in the test environment, we see the changes that have been made to the parameters of the dictionary, which we will copy to our code in a moment. In Python, all we do is modify our params dictionary with this updated value. Notice that in the titles key, we now have multiple article names separated by vertical bars. Let's see what the response JSON file will look like after running our code with the new parameters. As you can see, we now have multiple articles under the pages element. This means that in the resulting JSON data, we can select each article by iterating over the list at the query and pages path. Right now, if we use index 0, we'll get the source code for one of the articles because it comes first in the pages list in our JSON structure. If we, for example, change the index to 1, then the code for the other article will be saved to Wikitext.txt file because this title is the second item in the pages list. But rather than changing that index by hand, we can iterate through each article by using a for loop. This way we get the wiki code for every single article. We'll save them all to one file and add a special separator at the beginning of each article's text. That way, in Wikitext.txt file, we'll have a clearly separated section for each article's content. Thank you for your attention. I hope that today's lesson has shown you how easy it can be to fetch the wiki text of Wikipedia articles through its official API. Of course, this is just the beginning. Future lessons will explore other interesting possibilities offered by this API, as well as other open data sources. See you next time.